So I'm Mitchell Murphree, Bob's chef and owner of Five Senses Restaurant here in Murfreesboro. We're going to give the plug. It's over off Northfield Boulevard, 1602 West Northfield Boulevard, and the Georgetown Park Shopping Center behind the Kroger that's on Broad. That shopping center back there. We're open for lunch and dinner, lunch Monday through Friday there, Monday through Saturday. And we specialize in seasonal menus, lots of local produce, and this is probably my fourth or fifth demo here, cooking demo. It's the first time I've ever got to go shopping before I actually got set up, so I'm on the ball today, kind of. Never been this organized for a demo, so probably have lots of issues. You guys can go. Usually I just wing it and make it through. So. But lots of local produce, a lot of really great seafood. That's kind of what we specialize in seasonal menus again. But I do want to say we have a wonderful farmers market here at the Lane Agri Park. Very proud to be a part of that. And I've been to a lot of farmers markets around the country. I put this up again. Any market I've been to, it is fantastic. Janie and Nina, and Dee Dee, and everybody does a great job here. So everybody should be really proud of what they have to offer every week during the summer months. So we've got two recipes we're going to do today. So like I'm a real chef, I'm not one of these celebrity TV chefs. And so I'm just going to be bouncing all over the place. I don't have a lovely assistant today. Usually my son, he's 9, usually comes with me, but he's with my parents today. So.
We have a whole staff that cooks everything.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I did get some help, I'll be honest, I did get some help last night, but we're gonna cook it all live here. So I've never fried anything, so we'll see how this works out. I've never fried anything here at Demo, so we'll see how that works out. So we're gonna get going. First thing we're gonna do, I believe, what do we have, so like 10:30 or so? 10? How long do we really have? 10:30?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
We say 9 to 10 o'clock.
Okay.
At 10 o'clock, we usually do the drawing because somebody needs to go.
All right.
But we can go on as long as we need.
So we got like Rachel Ray's 30-minute meals today. Okay. Or 55-minute meals, I guess. We're going to start with the soup. Did everybody get a copy of the recipes?
Actually, we're a little short.
Okay.
And our printer here in this building is broken. So we're trying to get more from the other building.
Okay.
It may take a little time.
Okay. All right. We don't need to pay our taxes to the state, so we get a good printer here. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the soup then. Get that going. While that's kind of hanging out in this pot and working, we'll put our beignets together. So you see this soup here. It's a creamy summer squash soup with cumin, ancho, chili, cotija, cheese, and tomato salsa. Very Mexican Latin soup. We try to incorporate a lot of things that are available in the market. Some squash, there's some garlic out there. In the salsa, there's tomatoes, there's onions, there's cilantro. But this is a nice creamy soup. There's no potatoes or anything like that in there, so it's pretty healthy. And it's also vegetarian. And if you use water and not chicken broth, you can also use vegetable broth, but you don't use cream, it would be a vegan soup as well. It's definitely gluten-free. So what we'll do here, we're going to cut up some onions and the squash. 1 yellow onion. We'll start with this big one here, okay? So we'll try to So we'll start by dicing this onion up. So I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off. I'm going to cut this onion in half. I'm going to peel off this outside skin of this onion, this one side here. It's got a little bit of a rough spot there. We'll slice that out. And then we're just going to dice this up. And I'm going to do cuts all the way across here. And then I'm going to come back, turn it to the side, dice it up this way. Now, this doesn't have to be the prettiest cut in the world. because we're going to puree this. We're going to get this pot going here. We're going to cheat. I got this oil already hot here. And then what we're going to do next is when you're holding a knife, put your finger and your thumb against the blade, curl those 3 fingers underneath. You got a lot of control over this knife. Don't ever do that because that finger's going to slip off. Then you can have an issue. That issue's not a fun issue. 6 yellow squash, medium diced. So medium diced, so this is kind of a small dice. Medium diced is going to be a little bit bigger. Why don't we move these out of the way so we can see here. Am I speaking loud enough for everybody? Yeah. So we're going to cut the tips off of all these 6 squash. And you do get samples at the end, so. So I'm just going to cut all these squash up lengthwise, and these are really nice because they're all the same size. So when you're cooking stuff, you want to cut everything about the same size, mainly so that it cooks evenly. And again, we're not incredibly worried about the prettiness of this cut because it is going to be pureed, but you want it to cook. You want it to be cut evenly so that it cooks evenly. So you've got our pot, we've got some oil in there, it's getting hot. We should hear a sizzle. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. These things work pretty good. Here's what we're going to do. We have our onions in there. We're going to put a little salt and pepper in this. I don't think it probably says that in the recipe. I wrote these blades Monday night. Well, Saturday night. So what I always like to do when I'm starting my vegetables, I like to put a little salt and pepper in there. What that does, breaks down the cells of the vegetables. And all the vegetables are carbohydrates and water. So you can see this water coming out. You're going to be left with the carbohydrates, which is basically sugar. So that's going to concentrate the flavor of the onions, the sweetness of the onions. And I do that for everything. If I'm starting carrots, celery, onions, or whatever my first vegetable or 2 in the pot is, I always put a little bit of salt and pepper in there. You'll notice also when I'm slicing, I'm leaving this tip of the knife down on the board and rocking back and forth. I'm not chopping and I'm not lifting this tip off. When this tip comes off, your fingers get underneath there and it gets to be another bad situation. So when you're slicing, leave that tip of the knife down. You're going to have less chance of cutting yourself.
Mama.
Okay, so we're going to have yellow onion. We got our squash cut up. We're going to put some garlic in here. Actually, we're going to wait just a minute on the garlic. So in a stainless steel pot, heat the oil to medium heat. Add the onions and squash. Saute for about 3 minutes, achieving a bit of color. Add the garlic, the cumin, the ancho powder. So ancho powder is a dried and smoked poblano pepper. A chipotle pepper, they're very popular right now, is nothing more than a dried and smoked jalapeno pepper. So all peppers will start out with the fresh name, and then once they get dried and or smoked, they turn into a different name. And so I like the ancho a lot. It's not as hot as a chipotle, but it still has all that smokiness and that earthiness that's synonymous with dried and smoked peppers. We're going to go ahead and put this squash in. Yeah, runaway squash here. Thought it was too hot in this pot, I guess. I'm going to crank this on up. Let's get this thing going. We're going to put just another little pinch more of salt and pepper in here. If you've watched any of those fancy cooking shows, they always talk about layering of flavors. That's kind of what we're doing. We're bringing out the flavor of each ingredient that we're going to add. So that when we're all done, everything comes together and you have what's called a depth of flavor. Let that cook for a little bit, and then we'll go back and add the cumin and the ancho chili pepper and the garlic. We're going to need a little bit of lime juice for this one as well. Not a lot, a little bit. Somebody did get all these little things together for me last night. They're really good. That's our lime juice. We are going to put a little cream in there. There used to be we've done some remodeling at the restaurant. We started out with the first 10 years, 11 years, with all these quotes on the wall, these chefs and food folks and food writers. It was a really cool thing. And one of my favorites was Julia Child's, "If you're afraid of butter, use cream." And so we're gonna put some cream. We're gonna put some cream in here. So you want to keep this stirring a little bit. You don't have to sit here and stir it non-stop, just in case there's any stickage. This pot right here is not quite as good as this pot. This is a little bit heavier bottomed. Far less chance of burning things in here and sticking as there is in this one, but we'll just keep an eye on this. So that's where we're going to hang out in a little bit. We're going to add our water, we're going to add our spices in our water, let that cook. And now we're going to start our tomato salsa. So we got one large heirloom tomato. Looks like probably got a brandy wine here, maybe. Does anybody know exactly? Looks like probably a brandy wine. I believe that's what we got here. So we're going to, I didn't put on this recipe, one large heirloom tomato diced, small diced. I missed that. So that'll be all right though. So we're going to cut the core out first. So what I always do with a tomato is cut the core out. Because if you don't, you're going to end up losing some of the tomato. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to switch over to a serrated knife. It grabs the tomato skin a lot better, a bread knife or whatever you want to call it. It's going to grab this tomato skin a lot better. So with this big of a tomato, beautiful tomato, we're going to cut the core out. We're going to cut it in half. We're going to cut off just that little bit of bottom there where it's got some scab. So then we're going to take it. And when you're using the serrated knife, the purpose of it is, like I said, for the teeth of the knife to grab the skin. So you're not ripping it, smushing it, and all that stuff. But you just want to let that blade do the work. Don't push down on it. Just let that knife glide through here. Then we'll come back. Dice this up. Tomatoes aren't the easiest thing in the world to cut. If you have any questions, feel free to shout them out. We'll see if I can answer them. So I think on this salsa here, it says let sit about 15 minutes for the flavors to all get together and hang out. You could also do this soup with zucchini, would be great. You could do it with zucchini and squash, would be just as good. All right, so you've got our tomatoes here diced up. Smell good out there? Good. That's the hope. Stainless steel bowls, they don't react with acidity, lemon, lime juice, vinegars, tomatoes, creams, dairies, and stuff like that. They're a lot easier to clean as well. Okay, so we're going to chop a little bit of an onion, some cilantro. We have a little bit of lime juice as well. We do the same thing with this onion. Cut off the top and the bottom. Cut that in half. So we're just going to get about 2 tablespoons. That's not very much. We may do a little more. Put this in here. We'll save this for our beignets. We need a little bit of cilantro. So we have some cilantro here. Cilantro is one of those herbs where the stems, in my opinion, are fine. I like cilantro stems. And what you don't want to do, cilantro is so delicate, much more delicate than parsley. Just a few slices. Anytime you're doing herbs, you want to slice herbs. Slice it through, and that's it. Don't sit there and whack it, beat it up. All it's going to do is bruise, and you're going to have some gross looking cilantro. So we've got our tomato, cilantro, onions. We're going to throw in a little bit of lime juice. So we use a little bit of lime juice here. We're going to save a little bit of lime juice for that. We're going to throw in 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil. So we're using extra virgin oil in this, which is more of a finishing salsa or something to finish with. I'm using canola oil to fry in and saute in and stuff like that. All right, now we're getting some color. So the onions are starting to turn a little bit. So when the onions start to turn, that's when you really want to watch, because that's when sticking can occur. That means that, as we talked earlier, a lot of the water is evaporated out, the sugar is concentrated, and that's when things can start to burn. We'll keep a good eye on that. Put you in charge of this. No? Yeah, you? No? No? Okay. So we're going to put a little bit of salt and pepper in here. Just going to toss this around. Let that hang out. This looks good. Good enough to eat. We got one row of tomatoes. Didn't want to get cut up there. So also when this happens, just like with this, when we put that salt and pepper in there, some of the water is going to come out of the onions and the tomatoes, and that's what's going to create this saucy sauce goodness in there. Okay, so I think we're ready. So one thing I didn't want to do is put my garlic in there too early. Because what happens is garlic burns. When garlic burns, you're left with a really bitter flavor. You don't want that. So I like to put the garlic in much more towards the end, right before I add my liquids. That liquid will stop the process of it burning and cooking. So the amount of cumin and ancho chili powder in there may be a little bit much. You may want to adjust that. I'm a big fan of cumin. Now it's really going to smell good. So we want to take these dried spices and we want to toast those basically in here a little bit. That's what you're doing. Add those in there before you add your liquid. Man, these burners work good. And another thing you can do, they always say you can always add more. You can't ever take away. Which is very true. So we can always add more ancho chili or cumin in the end if we want to. We can't take it out. We have to make a whole other batch of soup with no spices and add in there to get it equal to that flavor. So I got my oil too hot. Got my oil too hot. It's mad at me. It's also smoking the room up. That's not very good. So we're going to save a little bit of this water. We can always, again, we can add that in there at the end if we want to thin the soup out. We don't want the soup to be too... Man, I really got that little... Sorry. Okay. So, we've got our soup cooking here. We're going to leave it on high. We're going to bring that to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, and let that cook, and then we'll puree that, okay? And then we'll sample it. We've got little cups over here. We've got our tomato sauce, so we'll put right on top. We've also got some Cotija cheese. Y'all can't let me forget to put this on there, so we'll forget. Get all the stuff in the front there. So I'm just going to take this lid off so that we don't forget that.
What is Cotija cheese?
Cotija cheese, I'm glad you asked. It is basically a Mexican Parmesan cheese. I'm a big fan, not only of the local farmers market, this one in particular, but also the many ethnic grocery stores that that are around town. There's several Mexican markets. There's lots of Asian, Thai, Laotian markets. There's also several Middle Eastern markets. And you can get anything you can get anywhere in the world or any big city here in Murfreesboro right now. It's pretty cool. But that's one. They probably have 5 or 6 brands of Cotija cheese. It's just a little crumbling cheese that is really good. It's just kind of a Mexican Parmesan. It's a cow's milk cheese though. So we're working there. We got that ready in about 15 minutes. That's pretty good. Okay. Next, we're going to start with our making our beignet mix. So we have our beignet mix. We're going to have a bowl of dry ingredients and a bowl of wet ingredients. We'll pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients. And stir that together just a little bit. Then we'll drop these like hush puppies, more or less. And I thought beignets sounded way more cool than hush puppies. And then we're going to kind of take it Middle Eastern Indian, I guess, and we're going to make a little curry yogurt to dip with those. Okra and squash are both big in Indian cuisine, Indian culture. A lot of stuff is vegetarian in that culture, so this is a good way to get some yogurt, healthy yogurt, curry powder, Indian flavor, but using squash and okra that we have here at the market. So, in a medium mixing bowl, place the cooked and mashed squash, which I did last night. So we multiplied this out quite a bit, so I hope that I did my measurements all right. We've got about 9 squash here that we diced up, put in a pot, put a lid on the top, a little salt and pepper, put a lid on the top, and just let it cook for about an hour. And just cook down, cook down, cook down. It's really, really soft now, okay? We'll start that out. We'll go in this bowl with that.
Excuse me, did you add any liquid or just let
No,
the
no.
squash produce its own liquid?
Yep.
Okay.
I watched it pretty close, but the thing with putting a lid on top is it does release liquid, but it cooks back down in there.
Right.
But it cooks into it, and I haven't drained this or anything. I didn't add any liquid, and it's got that much liquid. I was kind of surprised. I thought it'd have a whole lot more liquid. You know, when you just cook squash and onions with squash casserole, you put 30 pounds of squash in there, and you wind up with a cooked down squash, a cup worth of squash. But this really is, I've never done it this way, and it turned out really good. This was not squash. Once it's all mashed up, it looks like a lot of squash. So if we did this in a pot of water with some onions like squash casserole and garlic or something, I don't think you'd have anywhere near that much squash left. I really like doing it this way, and I don't know why that is. It turned out really well. And there is just a little pinch of color on there, which is kind of nice too. All right, now the fun part. So we're gonna slice up a bunch of okra. All right, so we're boiling up here as well. So we're going to turn this down to a low simmer. We're going to make sure that we're not having any sticking issues. Really want to watch the corners. Smells great. All right. So So now this is the time y'all want to ask questions while I'm up here cutting all this okra. One thing I'm not going to do with this okra is pre-cook it. One of the coolest things that's going on with okra right now, it's called charred okra. And we putting that on one of the dishes at the restaurant right now. So you just get a really hot pan. And I've learned that cooking at home versus cooking in a restaurant is different. For some reason at home the fire alarm always goes off in my house. At the restaurant I have that nice handy dandy hood system that sucks up all the smoke, but one at home doesn't ever seem to work as good.
I've seen a lot of recipes lately for like grilled okra.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of the charred grilled okra thing. Put a little bit of oil, salt, pepper on your okra raw, throw it on the grill. Everybody's always trying to find new ways to eat different foods, and that's one of the ways, yeah. So what I was going to say is we'll get a hot skillet, get it smoking hot, and then just throw that okra in there, toss it around for about 15 seconds, take it out and eat it. It's delicious. But grilling it's another way. I love okra's one of my favorite vegetables. It's very, very versatile. As you can see, this is kind of a different way we're going to do this. I never made this recipe before, so hopefully it works. But I was sitting there saying, well, we have squash hush puppies. It's actually called squash hush puppies. Like I said, beignets sound better, but so we got to find something else in there and put in there. So just really thin slice of okra. That should be good in there. You can turn it Indian, and that would be good. So we cut the top off the okra. So we're going to take it and we're going to slice it thin. The reason we're going to slice it thin is because we don't want it to be too fibrous-y, since we're not pre-cooking this okra. So another one of the things, I'm going to hold the knife here, I'm going to put this tip down, I'm going to put that blade against my middle knuckle, curl my fingertips back, and then we'll just go to town here. Slice all these up.
How do you convince people who think okra's always slimy to even try it?
You know,
I like it that one.
and you know it is, but this stuff here, you know, I think a lot of times it has to do with the okra you buy. The fresher it is, the better it looks. I think kind of less slimy, maybe in a way. This stuff is cutting all this up here. I'm getting very little slime. Obviously, it comes out when it cooks a little bit more, but yeah, somebody said that they like it that way. I do too. I think that's, I don't know of any other vegetable that's like that has that mouthfeel, that texture, whatever you want to call it.
I'm a big fan of okra, so I steam mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also started a couple of years ago grilling it.
Yep.
And then, of course, I pan fry it.
Sure.
And then, of course, you know, there's other dishes you can get.
I love those pickled okra you have in your restaurants.
That's
Yep.
what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna pickle okra today. Bought it here today.
Good. I was going to say, good thing you bought it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's, Nina had asked a week or two ago, what's one thing I would like to see available here that's not, and I said, you know, I'd love to see more okra. It seems like okra's not, there's not a whole lot of okra. And there is some, but not a whole lot. Tell you what, I think, since I talked about this not being slimy, it's a good thing to have a little bit of water left over. We're gonna,
I went last Saturday morning to the market on the square and could not find any okra. And I went early. So they kept saying, oh no, it's too hot. And I thought it was just, isn't that what it's supposed to be?
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I like those
That's what
red
it's
tomatoes cooked down together with onions and basil at the end.
Delicious. One of the things I have seen to do away with a little bit of the slime is, and I've done this before, is take these okra pods, whole pods, don't cut them up. I'm going to do a little trick here. Tell everybody. Okay. Is take the okra pods, whole pods, put a little bit of red wine vinegar on them and let them sit for about 30 minutes. And for some reason that takes away a lot of the sliminess. If you're doing like okra and tomato stew, I found that it works really good for that. But if you rinse them off after you're done, after about 30 minutes, and for some reason the vinegar doesn't stay on there, I don't know how it doesn't stay on there. They do turn a little bit of off color, but it really takes away a lot of that sliminess. I probably should have tried this recipe before I just brought it here. Okay, let's see what our squash is doing. Good, getting tender. Okay, so let's finish up this mixture here. So in a medium bowl, place the cooked mashed squash, sliced okra, the minced onion. We're supposed to save 2 tablespoons back there, so that's fine. So this is what, about a 1/4 cup of minced onion, but since we're multiplying this recipe out, it would be about 3/4. I'm a big fan of onion. We'll just cut it all up. Okay, so we'll put our onion in here. Okay, and then buttermilk and egg in there as well. So we need a cup of buttermilk. Couple of eggs. Tell you what, I'm getting this. We're going to take this out. Some of that onion off there. We'll see what happens here. And then we're going to add these 2 eggs. Oh wait, she did send me 3 eggs. So again, we're putting all our wet ingredients in. So the mashed squash, the buttermilk, the eggs, the okra, the onions, all together here. That's pretty good. Then we're going to take a separate bowl. Since we're going to put the wet into the dry, we're going to have a bigger bowl for the dry ingredients, okay? So we're going to do about cornmeal here, which would be about a cup of cornmeal roughly. Flour. Some sugar. A little sugar is good in everything, huh? Salt. Black pepper. One of the things we do, I'm always on our kitchen staff, salt, pepper, everything. If you're not sure, salt and pepper. So we don't get anything processed in. So people think, my gosh, you go through a lot of salt. But there's not anything that comes through our door at the restaurant that has any hidden salt in it, unless we're doing something like soy sauce. But so always think about when you're cooking stuff, especially if you're getting all this stuff in the market, everything needs a little salt and pepper. It makes it taste a little better. And it also does chemical things like we talked about, releasing the water, concentrating the flavors. We're going to throw a little pinch of cayenne pepper. Again, you can always add more. You can always add more. You can't take away. Cayenne pepper is hot, very hot. If we were really doing some really cool Indian, really authentic thing, they like it a little spicy, so you may want to go a little heavier with the cayenne pepper. Okay, mix together cornmeal, flour, sugar, salt, and the 2 peppers, which is black and cayenne. Add the wet bowls to the dry ingredients and stir until just combined. See what we're going to do first. We're going to stir all of this dry together. Because you pour that wet in there and you have your clump of cayenne pepper over here and maybe it clumps all up and stays together and then you got a mess. You got one big hot bite of cayenne pepper. Sure that it's right. You can always add the corn wet. We can't take it away. So hopefully it was right. We did good. Well, if this works out, it's going to be really good. I feel really strong about that. I'm very confident it's going to be good if it works out.
Have a little faith.
Okay, so we've got our mix here. I think we should try one just to be safe. Just to see where we're at here. Yeah, it says here, tip here. Test the oil by dropping a spoonful of batter and testing for doneness. Let's just take a little piece, just see where our oil's at. You want to fry, what does it say, 325 is what you want. See if you have one of those oil thermometers or Fry Daddy or whatever. 350 is a little too hot, 300 is not quite there. Man, these are going to be good. I believe they're going to work. So 325 is about what you want for it to be golden brown outside, the inside to get cooked. The problem with cooking something that's like this, like fried chicken or anything that has something inside, is the only way to really tell if it's done is to break it open. Then you have to eat it. If it is right there, you have to eat it. Yeah, you can't serve that one. Alright, so I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to make sure this works. We're going to make our yogurt. We're going to set the yogurt aside. We're going to puree the soup. And maybe if I could have a lovely assistant to help maybe serve the soup. And then we'll start frying these beignets and pretty much be done. We'll eat the beignets too. The beignets too. So also on that sheet it said they should naturally turn over. Now I've learned sometimes in cooking if they don't want to turn over naturally, when one side basically gets done, flip over. Sometimes you have to tell it, you know, you're looking good today, beautiful complexion, talk to your food, coax it over. Sometimes it still doesn't work. Sometimes you just have to knock it a little bit and it'll flip on over. I believe we have some winners. Okay, so we're going to make our curry yogurt here. So, I have plain yogurt. I'm not a spokesperson for Dannon, but we're going to use Dannon today. We'll do about 3 cups. This is a quart of yogurt, which is 4 cups. We're going to take about 3/4 of this. Hey, you know what? If you like doing these, if you like doing, if these beignets sound good, but yogurt doesn't sound good to you, you could do a blue cheese dressing, ranch dressing. I think Thousand Island would be great. You could do anything you wanted to do. So, we've got our beignet here. I guess it does look a lot like Hush Puppy.
Can you substitute, you know, like you have sugar in there and a lot of salt? You know, people for they're diabetic and salt intolerant, can you substitute something? A different
You
herb?
don't have to add the sugar by any means. The salt, I'm not so familiar with what you can substitute for salt, but you can leave the salt down. I'm using a self-rising cornmeal. There is salt in self-rising cornmeal. And I'm sure these would be good without salt to a certain extent. I think you could maybe put in a little bit of soy sauce. I don't know if people without salt can do soy sauce. No?
No, soy sauce is not good.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper.
Honestly, I don't know what you can substitute for salt. You can put some fresh herbs in there, some basil in there. I think I need to puree it up first. I think you could put
There's that thing called
fresh herbs
dash.
a lot.
There's that thing that salt substitute called dash.
Dash.
I don't know how it would work.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a salt substitute.
Yes, I do know it's a salt substitute. Sorry, I can't answer that question. One thing I'm not gonna do is tell you something I don't know about. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But, you know, if people ask salt substitutes, I usually say fresh herbs, cheese, but I mean, cheese has a lot of salt in it.
90% of the products have salt in it.
Probably like 95%.
Yeah.
Maybe 99%, unfortunately. So we've got our yogurt here. We're gonna add some curry powder to this. Again, you can add as much or as little curry powder as you want. Some lemon juice. We're gonna add a little salt. A little bit of pepper. We would normally add some chopped cilantro or chopped parsley. We're gonna add a little bit of chopped parsley here. I'm gonna roll this up. So I've got a lot less chopping. Turn it to the side. Again, I'm slicing. Even though it says chop, you want to slice. So you don't bruise the soft, delicate herbs. You could put basil in here, would be good. Fresh thyme would be good. So we've got our curried yogurt. Something as simple as this, you know, I'm a big fan of grilling or sauteing a piece of fish, cooking some rice and some beans of some sort, and then serving a yogurt as a sauce. I love yogurt as a sauce, especially in the summertime. It'd be great with grilled chicken or fish or maybe beef. They do a lot of beef marinades with yogurt in the Middle East cuisine. So we've got our yogurt. It's as simple as that. Just take some plain yogurt, you can season it up and flavor it however you want to do that. So not everybody has one of these at home. And I didn't have one for quite some time, and then I quickly realized, wow, I'm missing out. Because it makes things so easy. So if you're at home, you can take this, and what we're going to do, we're going to put this towel, we don't have burn marks on this table. You know what we're also supposed to do? We're supposed to add a little bit of cream, right? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to wait on that. So if you're at home and you had a food processor or a blender, that's what you would use. Or you could use one of these things. And it's got 4 different buttons on it. You always got to figure out which buttons are the right ones to push. It's some crazy combo. So if you are doing this at home, want to be very careful about putting hot liquids into a blender or a food processor. You have a mess, and it's hot and it burns. Or you could go online and buy one of these things. You'd already be done.
Would you consider that just a professional?
No, it's not.
Yes. Yeah.
You can buy a small immersion.
Oh, I've had.
You could definitely buy a small one.
Four times that size.
I assume it works.
4 times less than that.
I think I got this somewhere. I don't remember where I got it. Like 5 years ago for $10 somewhere. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I did. Okay, so let's taste this soup. We got to taste this before you guys do. Make sure it's gonna be good. So we got this soup pureed up. You think we should add the cream?
Yes. Cream or butter.
It's true. If we didn't have butter, so we do have to add cream, huh?
Do you add acid to it at all?
Yes, we're supposed to add lime juice. You're reading the recipe, aren't you? Thank you.
I didn't read it, I just always do that.
Yeah, we're supposed to totally add some lime juice. There it was. But yes, I add some sort of acid to every soup I ever make. My favorite is sherry vinegar. Vinegar from sherry wine. I think it has so much more of a deep flavor than any white or apple cider or red wine or red wine vinegar. But you could add red wine, you could add white wine if you're doing a soup like this would be good with white wine. Just some acid, it brightens the flavors, brings everything together.
I like balsamic if I'm making like a lentil soup.
Yeah, sure,
It's
yeah.
really, really good.
That'd be great. Well, that's not too bad. So, we're going to put in just a little bit more, salt. We're going to add a little more cumin too, and a little more of this ancho chili. And I would like a little more acidity. Luckily, we have a handy dandy lemon here. I'd much rather add a lime since we're doing Latin cuisine. The blue will work in a pinch. Alright, so I think they should be the guinea pigs, huh? To see if it's good first. Let's make sure. It takes a lot of stuff in a day. My palate may be off a little bit.
Oh, you want us to be?
Yeah, just see. We may need to add, do y'all think we need to add more salt, or is it good to go like that, or?
It sure is beautiful.
It's delicious.
So we're gonna serve that?
No, I would serve it.
Right on the mama.
Okay. So if it doesn't taste good, it's their fault, right?
I tend to eat a lot of salt. So I
You think it could be a pinch more salt?
I would add a little bit more salt, but that's just me, it's just fine the way it is.
I tell you what we're gonna do. Maybe a good answer for the lady who asked about salt. You know what, it's also gonna add a lot of flavor, even though we added salt to this, is this salsa here.
There you go.
And you got, well, cotija cheese, but acidity, lemon juice, lime juice, vinegars are a great way to add flavor. I don't know why I didn't think about that, because I use more lemons, limes, and vinegars than I should probably. So yeah, here's how we'll do this. Get a little ladle, put a little of this in here, and then you can put a little bit of so then you can come back and put a little spoonful of a salsa in there and sprinkle a little bit of this on there, and then you got your soup. I got these here if you want to use these.
I'm not touching anything.
So this is the squash soup with the cotija cheese and the tomato salsa. Nice and pretty. You got white, you got your earthy yellow, and your little bit of red from the ancho chili, and then your cheese on top. Okay?
How long would that last, like if you could eat it all at one time, in the fridge, and freeze it?
3, 4, 5 days. You can definitely freeze it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of freezing it because you're gonna mess with the.
Right.
It's gonna be a lot more water when it comes out. Yeah.
Hard to freeze.
Yeah, but I mean, you can cut this in half, and it really. I mean, that's not that much, is it?
It's been like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you got 8. It says 8 servings, 8 nice bowls of soup.
You talk about your salt that you use. Are you using sea salt?
Kosher salt.
Which one?
Kosher, plain old kosher salt. Of course, the more coarse, the better, in my opinion. So you can really feel how much you're putting in there. I do not like iodized salt, simply for the reason of it's just hard to tell how much you're putting in there. Funny story, when I was starting out cooking. Actually, it wasn't when I was starting out, it wasn't that long ago. I was going to pickle some beets, I had all these beets, I was going to pickle them. The recipe calls for, I can't remember which one, I guess it called for kosher salt, and I had iodized salt, and I put the same amount, and I don't understand why I put the same amount of iodized salt as it said kosher salt. I was so excited, I did a lot of pickled beets, I mean there's a lot of beets. And man, that stuff was so awful, because there was so much salt in it, the iodized stuff. Woo! But, so I learned my lesson with that.
So you can actually use kosher salt and use less.
You would use a lot less
Okay, I'll keep that.
iodized salt. So if you needed a recipe that just said it calls for a cup of kosher salt, you would not use a cup of iodized salt.
Right, okay.
I don't know what the exact measurement ratio you would change it to would be, but you definitely would not use a cup of iodized salt. Okay, so these turned out good. We should taste these too. Good. Really tasty okra. Very cool. I'm okay with that. I was tasting this beignet here. Okay. Yeah.
Drop little patties of that in the.
So this is that's pretty good. The soup, maybe by the time it gets to y'all, it may not be so hot. But be careful.
Very hot.
I don't have those warning labels on the side of my soups. The soup may be hot. So we're gonna fry some beignets. We'll let you try that, and then we'll pretty much be done. So again, if you have any questions, I think we almost made the deadline. That was pretty good.
Don't worry about a deadline, we just, if you're drawing about the because some people have to leave.
Nobody leaves till they get fed. I've learned that.
That's the cardinal rule.
That's right.
Are beignets hard to fry?
Beignets? No, they're not hard to fry at all. You can see how sticky and gooey the batter is. It's actually a lot of squash and a lot of okra and just a little bit of the flour and cornmeal. So it's a really thick batter. The one thing you don't want to do is get it too big, because the outside will burn when the inside ever gets cooked. You do have raw egg in here, if you're concerned about that. So let's see here. Here. You can see it's, what is this? About a golf ball size, maybe a little bit smaller than a golf ball. Ping pong ball. And I just let it fall off my spoon.
Did you flatten it and just do it together?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely good.
Acidity in all your soups, would chili be considered a soup?
Well, there's a lot of tomatoes in soup.
Yeah. Depends on how you make it.
I would probably put, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I do. Probably just a dash, vinegar acts a lot like salt and brings all the flavors together. Brightens the flavors as well. So, you know, if you've got something like some spices like cumin or some chili pepper or chili powder or something, it's gonna heighten those and bring those to the forefront, which is why you're adding spices in the first place. Maybe, you know, something like that, maybe you want to look at like a red wine vinegar. It's not gonna alter not that you're gonna add enough to alter the color either way, but it goes with the color of the chili.
Just a little bit.
I love the
Just a little bit.
demonstration day.
You can always add more. Add a little bit, taste it. And that's the way you need to look at seasoning. I remember one of my first lessons, it was actually one of my last lessons in culinary school, which is kind of silly, but the chef brought me aside and we had this big batch of this yellow bell pepper puree. And we added like crystals of salt at a time, and I just tasted. I mean, I would do like 80 tasting spoons, tasting this stuff. But every little drop of salt got better. You kept tasting, so it got to the point where, wow, I don't think it can get any better than that. So it's just adding a little bit, tasting, add a little bit more, tasting, add a little bit more. And if you do it that way, you're never going to over season it, because you're going to catch it before it gets too salty or too vinegary or whatever the case may be.
Why is apple cider better than white?
No, apple cider is going to be made from, apple cider vinegar is going to be made from apple cider or apples. White vinegar, honestly, I don't know what white vinegar is made from.
We need one more.
I think it's still white vinegar. I think apple cider vinegar and distilled white vinegar are interchangeable for the most part. I think when you get into like the balsamic, the red wine vinegar, the sherry vinegar, the champagne vinegar, that's when you get into different uses for them. But I think if those two, apple cider vinegar and distilled white vinegar, are relatively interchangeable. This recipe calls for about 15 beignets. I multiply it times 3. I've got like 1,000 beignet mixes. Y'all can just stay and have lunch. That's what happens when I cook at home. I have my wife and 2 boys, a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'll get done and I'll have a pot of whatever enough for the next 3 weeks for us to eat. And they'll all look at me and say, Dad, we're not at the restaurant. I have a little trouble, honestly, preparing smaller quantities of things. I eat a lot. I just eat it. It's usually something I want to cook. They're all three are pretty picky, so it's usually something that they may not eat. They just end up eating it, which is not a good thing either. So if anybody wants to cruise by here and see these frying to see what you're kind of looking for, you're welcome to, as far as I'm concerned.